Hey, it's me, TV, and today I'm going to be doing my November wrap-up. I know it is December the 15th, which is when I'm filming this, but still, I just have not had the time to go through and film this. I don't remember if I talked about this before, because I scrapped a few videos from like when I last filmed in like November-ish up to like now, so I don't know when I talked about this. It could be anywhere. Like, okay, now I'm thinking about like changing how I talk about this stuff, so who knows, but originally my plan was to minimize my wrap-ups into like my top 5 books of that month, because I read too much. I don't really want to sit there and edit a ton of footage, you know, so I cut them down. But now I'm like, I don't know how I feel about only talking about 5 books, so I might change this in the new year. I don't know yet. And yeah, for now we're just gonna go with it, and whatever happens in the future is what happens. So first, I read Two Roads by Joseph Bruchac, and this is about our main character, Cal, and his dad, and they're hobos, and they're basically, you know, going across America, just trying to eke out some form of a living while helping people, basically. So then Cal's dad tells him that they are both Creek Indians, and that he is sending Cal to a school full of other Native children because he has to go off and protest in DC because he was a veteran, and they're trying to, you know, get their like payments sent early because this takes place in the middle of the Great Depression. So yeah, long story short, Cal is sent to the school, and stuff happens, basically. Obviously, the school that Cal is sent to is I forget what it's called exactly, but it does take place in that like setting, and the like bad side, or how awful this was, is talked about, is not the like main focus of Cal's time at the school, because the author decided to talk about some of like the more, not like a positive thing, I guess, but like the few good things that came out of kids being sent to these schools, like how even though Cal goes there not knowing his language at all, he learns that kids there are trying to keep the language alive behind the teachers' backs, and through that Cal eventually does learn like parts of his language. The main thing that Cal's dad tells him before he's sent there is that while he's there, he will like make some of the best friends he will ever have. So like the book does talk about like the bad side of these schools, but it also kind of talks about the more like, I guess, happy side to it. Like again, it just focuses on like the more awful side of things, but it doesn't like focus in on those things at all. It still tries to like look on the more happy side, I guess. Listen, I like this because of like the bond between Cal and his father. It was very cute, and I loved it. Just in general, I think that Cal is a very interesting, like, not really interesting, but like he's a fun character to follow, I guess. He's very unique, and I will say that he might sound a little bit like older than your average like middle grade novel, but this is a middle grade novel. But it is explained why Cal talks like very mature for his age. That's because he reads a lot, and that helped him, so he's able to like talk more mature, I guess. And yeah, this was a like fun time, and it also kind of like showed a different group of people than you tend to think of when you think about the Great Depression, because usually you think about like white people, and that's about it. So this book focuses on one story of what Native Americans were dealing with during the Great Depression. I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars, and I do want to read more from this author because I did really like the story. And yeah, I think those are all my thoughts. Next up is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I'm not going to talk about this one a lot because I did a whole like video talking about my thoughts on that book, and I will link that somewhere. So the next I read, which was part of like a buddy read, but it kind of fell apart, and yeah, it's the whole thing, but I read A Hero Born by Yong, and this is like book 1, and this is like part 1 in a novel, because the like original novel was split into like 4 parts. It's a whole thing. Basically, this is like a classic wuxia novel, which basically just go into this expecting like lots of like martial arts. It's hard to describe what this is about. Part 1, like a 4-book like series, that's basically just 1 book. So basically this is like the first 25%-ish. Therefore it does tend to move like, or at least feel very slow, because this is like the first fourth of like a very long novel. So yeah, but so far we're following the children of these 2 people that were sworn brothers, and they both die, and the children are kind of like separated, and a man basically promises to reunite these children, and to do that he basically has this group of people called the 7 Freaks of the South to find one child. He goes off to find the other child, and they're basically there to train the 2 children in martial arts, so the 2 children can fight at a date in the future, and then they can find just like see who is the better master of martial arts. For this, we meet the first of the two children, and we do meet the second one towards the end. We don't see a lot of him, but I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I did like it, but like I said before, it's very slow, and the chapters are about 50 pages each, so they tend to go on for very long, which made it so the pacing feels very like sluggish, even though it really isn't. But the chapters are so long that it feels more sluggish than it is, I guess. And yeah, this book is like the first 25%, and it had some twists I was not expecting. And yeah, I do want to continue on the series. I think go into this expecting that it starts off very slow, but it does like pick up the pace later on. I do think that it is very interesting because like I was very like enthralled when I did get into this, but like I said before, it took me like a while to read through the whole thing because like the chapters are just very long, you know. Then I read White Trash Warlock by David R. Slayton. This is following our main character, Adam Binder, as he basically asked to help his brother because his brother's wife is basically like more or less comatose. And of course, Adam has this thing called the sight, and through this he has like limited magical powers because his sight is very weak in comparison to like other magical people. And when he gets there, he finds out that his sister-in-law is being controlled by this like weird creature in the sky that's fucking massive. It's basically a giant heart, I think. And upon further investigation, he finds out that all of the magical people in Denver, Colorado have all been killed over the last like few years. So it's basically up to him to beat this magical floating heart in the sky and kill it once and for all. Through this, he does kind of like cross over into another realm where he has to like make deals with elves, and he comes across like gnomes and dwarves and all that. And yeah, a lot happens. It's fucking wild. I did give this 5 stars because I did like my time in this. And Adam, I'm pretty sure Adam is gay, and I do see him like have a love interest in this book. Now where that's going to go is kind of like left up into the air because of how this book ends, but there are choices, and I really liked it, and I can't wait for book 2 because I really liked this one. And I thought that this one was very well paced, and that the excitement never really goes down. At least it didn't for me. Like there's always something that was kind of like pushing you on to read the next chapter, or at least continue on in the book. I did like our characters that we get to meet in this book, and I really hope we get to meet them in book 2, or like have them continue with us in book 2, because I really did like them all, and I want to see them like develop further, I guess. I don't know what else to say really, because I did like this. I did get 5 stars, so it's like, what else can I say besides like I enjoyed every part of it basically. So yeah. Next up is another like one I can't really talk about because it is a short story collection, and that is The Dangers of Smoking in Bed by Mariana Enriquez. 10 or more short stories, and they're all fucking wild. So these stories deal with like curses, ghost babies, heart fetishes, cannibalism, and Ouija boards. So there's a lot that is covered in this collection. And I think like one of the like blurbs for this, like the blurbs talking about her writing style, talking about it as if it was like urban realism meets horror. I think that is very accurate because like these stories just like start off very like normal and plain, and then they get very dark very quickly. And this was like one of those rare few collections that not a single short story felt very like bleh. They were all like fucking incredible. Like every story had me like going, what the fuck, after I finished it. Like legitimately, I don't know if this collection had an even like mediocre story because they were all like so good. But like I said before, if you're not into horror, I don't recommend this because like they do get very dark very quickly. There's a lot of like murder going on, a lot of like curses, just in general very like spooky shit that goes on. Like what is like most terrifying about this is like there are certain parts where like they talk about the history of certain parts of like a city or whatever, and like it is like part of the horror phenomenon, and you like look it up and it turns out that like spooky event actually happened. It didn't get like into the horror realm, but like that like tragedy actually happened, you know? And like it's an actual like really bad thing that happened, but the author takes it to a like a very like horror direction, like even further into horror, and it's just going very fucking crazy. And yeah, listen, it was great. I definitely am going to get her like other collection because I think this is her second collection. So yeah, this is incredible. I feel like if you haven't read a collection before, or like a collection of short stories before, you might like this because like I said before, there isn't really like a slow story. Once you get into like what they feel like, they're all like very like, they're all just fucking good, you know? And yeah, there's like basically the like top 5 books I read in November. And if you like this video, subscribe, like, share, all that shit, and hopefully I will see you next week.